and welcome back to Dicebreaker. We are here for our first day of coverage at Essen Spiel 2022. As the crowds go behind us, please excuse anything that people do that it's weird. I am joined by the editor-in-chief, Matt Jarvis. How you doing, Matt?
Hello, I'm good. It's been a good first day.
It's been a great first day. I, of course, am Wheels, the head of video, and we are here to talk about some of the things that we saw today. Matt?
Some of our favourite games, Wheels,
exactly.
of Essen Spiel 2022. Thanks, YouTube algorithm.
These aren't just the things that we saw. They're the things that we saw and thought were good. What's the first thing you want to talk about?
We didn't just see them, we played them. I think in every respect. The first thing we'll talk about, I think you played Wingspan. Let's start big.
Yes,
let's go
start big. There is
go bird or go home.
Brand new standalone expansion for Wingspan set in the Asian continent. With all of the beautiful, beautiful, colourful birds that you would expect from that area. If you're not familiar with Wingspan, it's an engine builder by Elizabeth Hargrave, in which you are essentially, laying down birds' nests.
And then laying eggs.
And then laying eggs, and then eating food, and using that food to make more birds, and then it all explodes, and everyone does loads of points. It's one of those games. It's very, very good, very, very highly regarded, and there's a brand new standalone expansion for it. In said expansion, you can play with just 2 players, and it has a specific 2-player mode map.
Yeah.
What do you want to know about it? Yeah, what do you want to know about it?
Tell me. So I walked past it and I saw it, and the first thing that caught my eye is you've got the row of cards like you do in Wingspan. You're building up your rows of bird cards, but then in the middle of the 2 players, there's another board.
Yeah, so basically, the way that this works is it comes with 2 boards, and then it comes with a separate module that you only use for 2 players, but the actual boards that you're playing on are identical to the ones in the base game. So you can use it as an expansion to add like 7-player mode.
Yeah, which is wild.
Which they've got like special rules for, where you play in like groups.
Yeah. Because
otherwise you'd have to wait for all 7 people to do their turn and then do your turn. So instead, you kind of play in smaller groups and you each have your own supply and things like that.
Yeah, I think they said, when we walked past, they said it plays as fast as the original game did with 3, but with 6 or 7 people, which is kind of wild.
Because you've got 3 separate... You're essentially just playing smaller games but combining your efforts, which is kind of strange, but I'm excited to see how it works. We played the 2-player mode. I played with Alex Meehan, who's behind the camera. Hello, Alex Meehan. And in said mode, essentially, whilst also playing your standard game of Wingspan, you've got this central board, like you said, which has these black and white tokens. They go together to form like a yin-yang.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like an area control style, sort of like making patterns across the board. So each of the sort of sections of the board are correspondent to, the wetlands, the grasslands, and the forest sort of areas of your board. So whenever you sort of lay a new bird nest on that area of your player board, you then get to use the token that was covering that space and then put it on the central board.
Right.
So you can only play it on a board that matches both the area of your bird. So say I played it in the forest, I'd have to put it in the green section. And then also matches an aspect of your bird.
Right.
So it could be, I paid using a rat to put this bird down, so I can put it on a rat space. Or it has this specific nest, so I can put it on that space. Or it has a wingspan over or under 50 meters or whatever, so not meters, you know what I mean? So I can put it on that. That's a big bird. But yeah, no, it's essentially, just sort of like laying out these little patterns, because at the end of the game, you're going to score points for your biggest contiguous group. So if I have like 7 pieces all connected, I'll score 7 points at the end of the game. But then the way that they sort of like make that obviously more important for each round is, instead of having global objectives that you're scoring each round, as you did in the original Wingspan, instead you've got these more focused objectives that are only to do with this board in the middle.
Okay.
So you've got like, top and the bottom score, 0 points on the bottom, and then increasing amounts of points on the top. So I think it was like 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And those could be, have the most amount of rows with your color in, or have the most amount of spaces that are nests, which have, your color token on it. So it's like a sort of, like in the individual rounds, you'll be doing small, more achievable things, but you need to then balance that with, well, I can't just put them wherever to get the objective, because then I'm not going to score big at the end. So it's kind of this interesting sort of new take on the original game. It doesn't stray too far. And
yeah, because the original game does play with 2.
Yeah, it's more of a sort of, kind of laser-focused version of those rules, which adds some new functionality, which makes it a little bit more, bespoke to player, rather than just, this would have been nicer if a few other friends turned up.
Yeah, and you can, like you say, you can add all those cards into the main game, play more people, so even if you don't just want to play with 2 people, you can
Yeah,
still
if you don't
just
care
play
about
it.
2 people, it's still for you.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
Cool.
very, very nice sort of middle ground that they've struck with that.
Yeah, so I think it's out later this year, they said December?
No idea.
I believe it's out in December.
December. Thank you,
Yeah.
Alex Meehan. But yeah, no, coming out December, have a look out for that. It's a very, very small box. It doesn't have a giant bird tower.
It's still got
dice
eggs
tower.
though, still got eggs.
It does
That's
still
the
have
important
eggs, and
thing.
they're a lovely mahogany red, which you know, that might interest you. What have we got next, Mr. Jarvis?
Well, a game I played with Maddie, who is over this side, is Dorfromantik, the board game. So based on the video game, which is basically a board game as a video game.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because like it's already a board game.
Yeah, which actually I hadn't played and Maddie had played, so it's kind of interesting that we got a mix of like experiences. But for those who don't know, Dorfromantik, fairly simple tile laying game, a bit like Carcassonne, where you place down little hex tiles and they might have a forest or a village or some train tracks or a combination of those, and you're basically laying them down to try and get the highest score possible by forming groups of like the biggest forest, the biggest village. This turns into a co-op board game, so you're not playing by yourself. Yeah. So there are 2 different types of tiles. There are just normal like landscape tiles, as they call them, and then there are mission tiles. So there will always be 3 missions on the board, but they still get added to the board like normal tiles. They're still a village, a train track.
Yeah, because in the original video game you have like these little, I think they're like little flags or posts or something
We'll
like that.
get onto the flags, Wills. The flags are coming, don't you worry.
But the way that those things worked is essentially by completing them you would add to the stack of tiles that you have available, and then the game ends when you run out.
You don't necessarily add to the stack here. You are going to go through the whole stack of tiles, but the stack of mission tiles, you always have 3 active, and they are normally, it's a number and a type of thing. So for instance, it might be train track 6, and as soon as you have 6 connected train tracks, that mission is completed, you draw a new mission tile, add it, keep going like that. So it might be like forests, villages, all of that kind of thing. There's a river as well. But to add to that, you then also have flag tiles, and the flag tiles you need to fully surround, and when you've fully surrounded them, they then score equal to the number of whatever it is, so forest, village, the number of those you have connected in a single group. So at the end of the game, you're basically adding up the points you scored from missions with the points you scored from completing flags, and then also your longest river, your longest train track. And that's the normal game, and that's what we played. It was very fun. Like, we played with a group of 4. It didn't take very long. We went through the whole stack. But what kind of made Dorfromantik interesting, they're off the cage, the board games. They must be stopped. What makes Dorfromantik interesting is there's a campaign in it. So there's the normal base game, but then there are also 6 boxes that add things, and as you play through, you basically work out how much you score, and it progresses you up this kind of like flow chart. And as you go, that then unlocks new, well, we don't actually know because it's a surprise. It was in the box, but I think it's like, you know, there are more tiles, there are more objectives, things can change. We were playing the German edition because the English edition is out next year. We were taught how to play it by one of the very friendly demos, so we don't know exactly what those achievements and stuff are, but it will have a campaign mode, it has achievements. It's not a legacy game. You're not tearing anything up.
That's a mirroring of the digital product, because you've got, essentially in that game, as you do certain little achievements, it will unlock like new kind of special visual tiles and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, for example, at some point you might get these kind of little waterway things, which most of it is just sort of aesthetic, like they just look pretty and they look nice, but I think some of them have like specific ways in which the tile works, which gives them a bit more functionality, like for example water tiles that are connected to train tiles, because you've got like these little you know, bridges and things like that. So it might be the fact that they add a bit more functionality.
I would expect that, yeah. And like Maddie mentioned, windmills are in there and stuff like that. So I would expect there to be more complexity as it goes along. But it's pretty simple, it's fairly quick. I enjoyed it. As someone, I haven't played the video game, I still thought it was a good.
Was it chill as hell?
It was pretty chill.
Because that's the main thing I think they need to carry on. Like, it's a very, very relaxing game that you know, shouldn't take too much out of you. So if they've captured that, I think that's important.
Because each turn is literally, you turn over a tile and then you work out where to place it, and that's it. There's not a lot to really stress you out in terms of, oh, like I don't know where to place this. It's more about being efficient than it is about getting stuck and not being able to do anything.
Yeah. All right.
So
well,
yeah, there we go.
That's Dorfromantik. Next on the list.
Do you want to do the train game, Will?
I would absolutely love to do the train game.
Tell me about the train game.
Now, I believe it's called Train Madness.
Railroad Madness.
Railroad Madness. Thank you very much. Now, this is a game which is very, very much a dexterity game, but the demoer described it to us as a dexterity Euro game. Because the idea is that instead of just sort of like, flicking things around and chucking stuff, I love that thing, but there's a little bit added on top. So it's not just dexterity, there's a little bit of sort of like management and area control going on. So you start off with this very simple kind of like crossroad of railways in the center of the board. So you've got like a little, connecting tile and then 3 straights. And on those tiles on the outside, you've got your trains. So you've got a green, a yellow, a blue, and a red. And you also have a little station as well.
Okay.
So those stations basically generate new passengers that you can then take to other places that don't have a station yet and drop them off. Because the theme is they're out searching for gold. So it's this kind of
So
gold
like
rush era, Wild
West.
West. There's gold and then their hills. We're going to take them over there with a train. And when they find the gold, we'll put down the station, and that means continued business as they need to come back and get the stuff, right? So the way it works is, you start at your station, you pick up a little token, and then you just move your little train on real working wheels.
Okay,
and they've got a little carriage behind them that's actually joined with a little connector.
Nice.
Which can fall off. And you have to just sort of very carefully go around the tracks, because obviously if you're not careful, your token falls off. And then you have to waste time putting the token back on. And then you need to go over there. You've only got 15 seconds to move
That's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot of time at all, as you will see. And it's basically, you've got the person to your left is controlling that timer.
Okay.
And then they can go stop whenever it's gone. But the fun thing is, they were very clear about this, like the rules are that. It's only when the person says stop.
Okay, so if they're not paying attention.
And the reason for that is very important. So you'll be laying down these little stations, and that's how you get your points. So basically, whenever you end your turn with passengers, on a non-crossroad that doesn't have a station on it already, you'll make a new station, you'll score points. You get more points if you have like sets of colors rather than just doing one color. So you can't just keep using your own stations. You have to go and get passengers from other people's, drop those off and all that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing is those stations are permanent landmarks on the board, and you can upgrade them with coins. The way you get coins is whenever someone drives a train past one of your stations, you have to go ding, at which point you put a coin in your bank, and then those coins can be sold. But that includes the timekeeper. So the timekeeper is not only like, oh my God, they're going to drop it, they're also watching out so they can say ding, and at that point, they might completely ignore the timer. And someone has like a 25-second turn because no one's paying attention, but then anyone after that time can go time because they've realized. So you're from the word go, you literally say go and insert your turn, you're moving all of the trains, not just your own.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you might want to move somebody else's out the way so that then you can move yours past.
Okay,
so you're kind of doing one of those like sliding block puzzles.
Yeah, like rush hour style.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting and really, really fun. He was describing how if you play on these big tables, you might do these big sprawling maps, or you play on a small table, you run out of room, so you have to do this tight little compact grid work and stuff. And the more like corners that you're doing, it's literally like initial D round the corners, like drifting on multi-tracks and, flinging tokens all over the place. You can do like actual trick moves with it, because the way in which the rules work are a little bit like, you only need to touch the tile to pick it up. So, it's very loose in a way that allows you to be creative.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that a lot.
Which is really fun, yeah. It's not like, oh, you can't do that because that's not in the rules. It's very much like, we've made it very clear and very loose, which means that, go wild and see what you can pull off. And we had a fantastic time of it.
Excellent. What
we played was a prototype. I think they're hoping that around February or so, we'll start to see actual proper things. So they were aiming for the Cannes Game Festival in France. Kickstarter in February, thank you very much, Alex Meehan. December release. So, there's a little bit of a time before we can actually get our hands on it, but as soon as we do, we're going to be playing a lot of it.
Yeah,
I can guarantee
sounds
that.
Great. It's the meeting of us.
Yes.
You love dexterity games, I love train games.
And Euro games, so
they finally done it. Well, speaking of going fast and momentum and stuff, we also played a game called Joyride, which was also a prototype. And it is an upcoming game from Rebellion Unplugged, who did the Sniper Elite board game. They've done Judge Dredd board games. This isn't set in any of those universes. It is just a brand new game.
Brand new IP, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it is. They described it as kind of like amped up Mario Kart. like post-apocalyptic Mario Kart is how we
Cool.
described it. So you have a board, and on that board is a hex grid, and then there are a series of gates like you have in racing games. So you need to pass through all the gates. But the trick is that it doesn't matter what direction you pass through those gates in, so you still need to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you drive backwards through one, it's fine.
Cool, okay.
So they don't just form like a ring. There might be one over here, one over there, like. So that is the first thing. The other thing is that you are using a set of dice to control your movement and speed.
Yeah.
And each round you can choose whether to lock in dice, but once you lock them into a group, that is your speed, and you can only turn like a tiny bit. So you basically get one move where you lock in dice, and you might go like 4 spaces and turn a little bit left, and then you roll any like extra dice that you have. So you can end up in situations where you might lock in to go at a certain angle, but if you don't turn early enough and you are in too high a gear, because the gear determines how many dice you're rolling, and you can only shift up or down at the start of your turn by 1. So if you take a corner too late, you can only turn a little bit, you're going to start crashing into things.
Yeah.
And that might include other people's cars.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Because you then, if you crash into somebody's car, depending on where you hit it, you might push them forward if you hit them in the back, which can be good for you and like annoying for them, as I found out because I was trying to take a corner and I got shunted forward and thrown off my line. Or, as Maddie found out, if you get hit in the side, it will just turn the opponent's car. So they might twist like a full 90 degrees to let your car go by.
Yeah, very fun.
So it's like Destruction Derby, but race.
Yeah.
But to add to all this, Wills, there are items.
Oh, of course.
So
it's
this is where the Mario Kart bit comes
right.
in. So as you pass through each gate, you'll pick up items, and it might be an oil slick, and an oil slick forces you to turn. Or it might be just a straight up missile, and the missile will damage the opponent's car, which means that you add little damage tokens, means they might not be able to use as many dice, or whatever it might be. So there are items that you then can go around and drop and use mines and all sort of nitro. So yeah, it was really fun because it moved very quickly. You're basically just rolling dice and you can turn a little bit, but otherwise the dice is your speed. So it's more about timing than it is about like deep strategy. But then you're just like smashing into other people, you're trying to take corners, and because the gates aren't just like one circle, like I passed through the first gate first, but then because I'd gone too far through it, I needed to take a wider arc, whereas Maddie was able to just like sharply turn and basically get to the second gate ahead of me.
So what makes this interesting to me is because we've actually seen a lot of racing games coming out recently. There's the Rallyman series. We've got new stuff from Asmodee as well. That we saw that one that was
Heat Pedal to the Metal.
Heat Pedal to the Metal. Thank you very much. Which is at Gen Con, and they're all sort of like very by the numbers. Like they're driving games. They have the gear system to make things a little bit more interesting. Yeah. But a lot of the time, it's very focused on the driving. They're not goofy enough.
They're Gran Turismo.
Exactly,
rather than,
right.
Like,
I want a Mario Kart. I want a Crash
Kart,
Team Racing. I want a silly thing, So I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
because,
this
oil slicks and crashing into each other. That's exactly my vibe.
Yeah, and they were saying, so the board is basically blank. There are a few areas, but you then can arrange terrain on there. You can move the gates around, so you can have a custom layout if you want. If you're playing with fewer people, you can kind of take part of the map off.
Yeah.
It's double-sided, and it will be hitting Kickstarter, I think March next year is what they said. But it doesn't have miniatures, it is just it's cardboard, it's a board. So, yeah. Although they said you could use Hot Wheels. They said they're about the size of Hot Wheels.
It feels to me like a little miniatures game almost.
Yeah. It
reminds me of things like Gaslands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's very customizable and modular, I think that really fits into that.
Yeah, it was cool. I really enjoyed it.
I'm excited to give it a go. So Matt, we've got 2 animal-themed games to finish us off. The first one that we saw was Yak from a designer called Michael Liu. That was over at Plan B.
Yes, it's a pretzel games joint.
It is a pretzel games joint, a little bit of a collab there.
They of wooden pieces.
Yeah,
lovely wooden pieces.
If you know pretzel games, they make things like Flick 'em Up, the fun
Junk
construction one, Junk Art. I'm trying to remember what the construction
Men
one's
at
called.
Work, I think it's called.
That's the one. Big wooden boxes full of very chunky, tactile wooden pieces.
It is their signature thing, is just good bits of wood.
But then a little while ago, they started to make sort of cheaper plastic versions of those games. We played a plastic version of this. I don't know if this will be available on one of those big fancy wooden versions. We'll see. But this was more of, they're known for dexterity games mostly, from what I've seen of them. And this was more of a sort of very breezy, kind of family-friendly, sort of resource management building game, right? So it's set in the Himalayas. You've got like, you know, fog and big yaks are pulling carts of goods.
Yes, the yak looked very good.
The yaks look fantastic. You also get a cute little baby yak, which is the first player token, which everyone was very taken with. You're going to be passing that around from round to round. But the fun thing as well, what you're also doing from round to round, is those yaks rotate across the board. So they're pulling literal carts with wheels on.
Yeah, like working wheels.
Yeah, that have like little colourful blocks in and also resources, and they will rotate across the board. So it's like, I might be using this yak this turn, but then whichever one, say, Liv had next to me, will then rotate around, and then I'll get whatever she, you know, didn't use or then put on top of that. So you've got 4 or 3 cards, I think, to pick from. You can either grab resources from the yak, in which case you grab all of one resource. So you've basically got 3 types of food. So you've got milk, you've got bread, and you've got meat.
The 3 staples, that's the pyramid.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the whole pyramid.
The food groups, you know, the food groups. And you use those then to buy blocks, which is one of your other cards. So these blocks come in about, I think, like 8 colours. They are very colourblind friendly, which ironically makes them less friendly for people who aren't colourblind, because you've got a lot of similar shades. But once you get used to them, you know, it doesn't take long to make them a little bit more obvious from each other. And you might have objectives that say you need this colour to be in this part of the tower, or, you know, if you have the most of these, you'll score more points. But the most important thing is you're going to be building a little pyramid. So you start at the bottom with about 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, making like a little house of cards out of these blocks. And then you score points based on how big the groups are that are connected, and then how many of those groups you have. So you might have loads of groups of 2, score loads of points that way. You might have one huge group of one colour, and score points that way. But the way you get those blocks is kind of the interesting thing, because these yaks are quite particular. So as I said,
yaks are, as a yak expert.
As yaks are.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're using, like I said, this food to give to the yaks in exchange for the blocks. But one of the yaks is lactose intolerant, so you can't use milk. One of them is gluten free, so they can't use bread. And the other one is one is vegetarian as well, so you can't use meat. And the other one is very picky and will only have a max of 2 resources. So, the diva, thank you, the diva yak, as Liv points out. But the point is, you want to wait for the ideal moment to use all those resources you've gained to get loads of blocks. But then you're also sort of like, oh, okay, but if I put blocks there, because basically you refill the carts whenever you're doing an action that isn't buying. If I put blocks there, that's going to help this person. If I put them there, that's going to help that person. So you're kind of like setting up moves that are coming in the future, especially if you're not the first player. I think the first player is actually kind of a hindrance to this one. To be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take loads of milk this turn, because I've got a lactose intolerant cow in front of me right now. But then once he moves out of the way, the bread cow comes in, and I can just like shove all those, grab all those blocks that I need, make a nice, pretty, you know, contiguous group of orange, and then I'm good to go. There's one final thing though that messes everything up, and that is whenever you're taking blocks out the bag to refill the carts, there are these white blocks which represent fog rising in the hills. Because the reason we're building these like big colourful things is so that people can actually see where stuff is. In the foggy Himalayas, because I can't see anything around here. Oh my God, there's so much fog.
Where's all the milk gone? Yeah,
where's all the milk gone? My yak's gonna go off a cliff, right? So the point is, you're building these big colourful things, because every time those white blocks come out, all the yaks get turned around. Because they're like, oh my God, I don't know where I am. So you could set up these turns like 3 moves in advance, and then the yaks rotate, and you're like, oh my God. So it's very, very clean, very simple. I think you could play it from a very young age, like maybe sort of like 8 to 10 sort of range. And it's a kind of like a first step into those kind of like set collecting, you know, like thinking a bit more ahead for like people who are quite new to gaming and quite young. And it's like, it's lovely. It feels like a big, you know, like a Playmobil toy. Like it's very, very cute, very colourful, lovely art. And it's just very nice and soft.
I saw a bit of it, and it, like you say, it has that immediate like, oh, this is really sweet. Like it's very physical. There's like not a lot of parts to it.
Exactly.
But the parts in there are like they
nice,
move,
big, chunky
and then you're building pyramids and.
It's the kind of thing that it could act like a toy as well as it could, you know, something else,
just very tangible.
Exactly.
Just get your hands
I think it's going to be really popular with families.
Touch those yaks.
Something to look out for. It looks pretty close to the finish of production. I don't know if we've got a date on it on this one, but please look into description if we ever put that there. The last game we have to talk about today, Matt, was one that you saw with Maddie, I believe?
Yeah, Maddie and I went and played it. We were very excited for it. As anyone that's been watching Dicebreaker for a while knows that we are big fans of the Cockroach Poker series.
We are. We're also big fans of vampires. So
yes, we also do like vampires. So yeah, this comes from the folks that made Cockroach Poker. It is not like that game. It is very different, but it still has that.
This is their first kind of step away from that, really, isn't it? Like.
They do a few other things, but this is like, it's a dexterity game. It's not just a card game on a table.
It's big, it's got a lot of plastic
in it. It is, yeah, and it's like got nice chunky cardboard. So, it is called Die Villa de Vampires, which I think means the villa of vampires, I would guess. Yeah. My German isn't great.
When we say vampires as well, we're not talking like, vampire, we're talking
vampires.
Vampires.
Yeah, but they're asleep, so they're more like...
This is what you're tuned in for right here on the Dicebreaker channel, the vampire impression.
Yeah, the vampires are asleep, and so, like any good... I don't know our relationship to the vampires. Probably not a great one, because the way we're waking them up is to knock garlic bulbs into their coffins.
Yeah, we're going to pour acid over them.
Yeah, which seems very unfriendly, but either way, we need to wake up those vampires. So you need to get these garlic bulbs, and they are plastic garlic bulbs. Nice. They are like balls.
I'm actually really upset I didn't get to see this one because they look really cool.
It's good.
It's basically like back golf, right?
It's garlic golf. It's back golf because the way that you knock around these bulbs around this kind of like almost golf course style board is by using bats, and the bats descend through a second level that's above the board, and they have, I think it's meant to be a wing. It's like a big droopy thing that sticks out their butt, and you move the bat around. The bat looks like a little snowman, but with bat. And there are 3 of these, and you knock the garlic bulbs around with that. So there's a mode for young vampires, and the bulbs start around the board.
And then expert mode.
Advanced vampire mode, the bulbs start in one place, but you've only got a certain amount of time to get all 3 bulbs in the right places, because you're racing against a sand timer.
Yeah.
So you roll a die to decide what type of vampire you need to wake up. So there's for some reason there's a frog, there's a spider, there's a cat.
Oh well, I guess they're following the
it's very
canon.
It's like Halloween-y stuff. Yeah. So you might roll a cat, and you need to get that bulb onto a coffin next to a cat picture.
Right.
So then you're knocking it around with the bat wings. But you're racing against time. And any that you get on, you then take them and score them, but you've only got a certain amount of time because of the timer. And that's basically the game. Like, you reveal them, they're worth different amounts of points, which are bats.
Yeah.
You can also discover bulbs, garlic bulbs, and the person with the most bulbs at the end gets like a bonus.
So this is competitive then? Because it's
competitive,
kind
yeah.
of
No, it's competitive. And yeah, there is an even harder one right at the end. So then it's like a flat board, but then right at the end there's like a little hill.
Oh, okay.
That's for the frog vampire. But there's like I think she's called Lady Vampiress, but she swaps between players, and if you pick up a coffin that has a crown on it, you have to give it to whoever has the Lady Vampiress.
Right.
So you might want to get her by rolling the thing and then waking her up, that kind of thing.
Cool.
But the simple of it is you're knocking garlic bulbs around with a bat. It's good fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's a good laugh. It's the reverse sequel to Don't Wake Daddy.
Yeah. Do wake the vampires.
Do wake Daddy Vampire. I don't know who the most daddiest of vampires
Count
are.
Dadula.
Let us know in the comments. But that is all that we saw here. Not all that we saw, but the best things that we saw here on the first day of Essen 2022. If you have enjoyed this, if you want to see even more games, we're going to be making new videos every day. So come and join us. Come back around the same time tomorrow. We'll have a brand new video with brand new games that we recommend right here at Dicebreaker. If you want even more than that, you can head over to dicebreaker.com, Mr. Jarvis.
You can.
For even what? Even
it's
more
a website.
Coverage.
Yeah, we'll have some previews, we'll have some news, we'll probably have some other stuff too, but those are the 2 main ones.
Excellent. We've got more stuff here on YouTube as well. If you like any kind of tabletop coverage on video, we've probably done it. And let me tell you, we've done some stupid things. So please hit subscribe, click the bell icon to get notified whenever we put a new video live. Give us a like, give us a comment. We've got all sorts of fantastic views that you can, videos that you can see, and we'll be recommending some at the end of this video on our card.
And if you're at Essen and you see us, come say hi.
Yeah. We love to say hello to people. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. I'm very tired. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.